My name is Phyllis Narcomey. I'm Comanche and Seminole, and the stories I'm going to talk about are the things that my grandmother, her name was Annie Perconic Otopobi, taught me. She's a full blood Comanche. She lived to be 93. She was born in 1903. And her grandfather was Stabanonica. Her father was Perconic. And her mother had a English name, and her name was Elena. But she all too was also Comanche. Um, and we're here in Paint Rock on March 17th, 2023. It's kind of a cool morning, and so that's how come I have on this jacket and several layers. But it's a beautiful day, and we're here to talk about the artwork that's on this site. And these particular hands, there's two up here and one here, and they're small. They're not children's hands, and I believe that they're handprints of a race of people or ethnic group that you don't see, and we call them Nunnapis. The Comanches call them Nunnapis, and they're called little people. And the people, I've not seen one, and but they've been described as being small, 3 to 4 feet tall, and they dress traditionally like we used to dress. Now probably in the 1800s. There's the last ones that I've known to be seen are still dressed like that. I'll tell you a story that my grandmother told me. We live in a community uh, in southwest Oklahoma called Richard Spur, and we've always known about them. Comanches knew that they were there. We've always acknowledged their existence, and they live underground. So if you think something's like a badger hole, or it may be their entrance to their home, but they're rather mischievous. And one of her stories was that we challenged one another to who was the best spear thrower, who could use their bow and arrows the best. So we did. We had a contest with them all day, and anyway, we got beat. The Comanches got beat. They were better than us. They're much, much stronger than the average human. Um, we have stories of them being able to carry a buck, not just a doe, but a buck over their heads and carrying it through like a weeded area or where there might be brush. They're able to keep that doe over their head and carry it. So they're very extremely strong. And I have stories from another tribe. It's Seminole, and they have this couple moved to Osage country in the early 1900s, and because they were able to get a job there, and the the woman was able to do ironing and washing the clothes and taking care of the Osage people, and she was ironing clothes and her just doing her daily things at home, and her little girl would come and ask her for something to eat, a biscuit, or and she would always ask for two. She said, "My little friend needs one too," so she'd always give her extra for her friend. And but that little friend never did come to her house, so her mother asked her about it, and she said, "Well, he's outside now." So her mother went to the window, saw a little person, and told her, you can't have anything to do with that person. And so she came in, but that Nunnapi taught that, and I don't know how to say little person in any other language. I know they have them because there's stories throughout Indian country of these people. So I don't know any other name. And but this little girl later on was able to heal people. If they had an illness or a wound, she was those Nunapis had taught her how to use herbs and what to do in case of an illness or a sickness. So according to this lady's daughter, the Osages would come to this little girl, even though she may have been young. They came to her for healing purposes. And so that's their handprint. You can see the swirl inside. It's it's nice that they want to be included. They didn't want to. They're here too. And I'm not sure what this is, but it's a four fingered something. I don't know if it's a spirit or if it's a giant or what it is, but it has four fingers. But I don't recall any stories that my grandmother told me about having something with four fingers. Although we have stories of Bigfoot, and but I never heard any stories about a four-fingered Bigfoot. The Nunnapis are still around. They're just like Bigfoot. You don't see them very often, but you hear stories of them being seen. And I have another Seminole story from my dad's side that his brother was lost. Then he went out to hunt, and he was lost for almost 2 weeks. My dad said, and my dad's was Philip Narcomey, and he was born around Bow Lakes, Oklahoma. And so, anyway, his brother went hunting. They couldn't find him. Went hunting for him. They searched for him, couldn't find him. And uh, then one day he just showed up. He was on the edge of the little tree line, and they brought him in. And he told the story, but the Nunnapis found him, fed him, nursed him back to health because he was lost and scared and hungry. And but he didn't have any knowledge about how to heal people. And all these people who actually kind of had contact with them weren't were a little bit off. And the more I thought about it, sitting up here and looking out, I think they just saw life from a different perspective. That how we what we conceive as being normal, but they just saw life from a different perspective because they went through something different than the rest of us do. And uh, so we just considered them off, even though they weren't.